Hey everybody, Papa Wiggs here with Wiggs again. Our next head-to-head here, we're going to be talking about Malik Nabers and Marvin Harrison Jr. Listen, this wide receiver draft class this year was crazy, wasn't it, Wiggs? I mean, I think there's a ton of rookie wide receivers this year that could have a great year. But the two that are going to be talked about, or at least compared to this year, the most is Nabers and Harrison Jr. Would you agree?
Yep.
I mean, yeah, there's other guys out there like Udunzi and Brian Thomas, and there's other guys out there, but these two are the ones that are going to be widely compared throughout the year. So listen, I mean, all the hypes around Marvin Harrison Jr. Everybody said he was the best receiver coming out of college for this draft, and that he was going to go, he was going to be the first wide receiver drafted, which he ended up being the first wide receiver drafted, right? And stuff. Here's my take. Listen, I think that both of these guys are going to have a great year. I mean, because I think they're both in really good situations. I mean, listen, Marvin Harrison Jr. from a quarterback position is in a much better situation than 100%. Nabers. I think we can agree on that, right, Riggs? But with that said, Daniel Jones has got to throw to somebody, right?
He's really got no one on
Danny
that
Dimes has got to throw to somebody, and it's going to be Nabers. And I've been watching Nabers through training camp. He's been tearing it up and stuff. I've read stuff about players on Arizona talking about Marvin Harrison and stuff and how he's looked. I think both of these guys are great. I think it's going to be much closer than everybody thinks, though. That's just my opinion. Even with Danny Dimes and stuff, I think that here's the thing. I think that Arizona is that they got Trey McBride, right?
Yep.
And then they've got Dortch. I think
Greg
Dortch is another one. So they've got a lot more options.
And Michael Wilson.
And they got Michael Wilson. So they got a lot more options, and Zay Jones and stuff. So I think personally, this is going to be, from a fantasy standpoint, a lot closer than everybody thinks. Long term, I think Harrison's probably going to come out better. That, in my opinion, I think long term, from a career perspective, he's probably going to have a better career than Nabers. I could be wrong, but I think he will. Now, listen, the Giants have Wendell Robinson, and they have Darius Slayton. They lost Waller to retirement. Listen, Slayton's been trying to prove himself for years. He hasn't been able to do it. Wendell Robinson showed some spurts last year. I think he's definitely someone that's going to, be a good second receiver to pair up with Nabers. But I think Nabers is going to be the guy. I think the Giants are really high on this guy. I know Nabers wasn't thrilled to be drafted to the Giants, but I will say this. I think that Nabers is going to be, just like Harrison will be with the Cardinals. I give the edge from to Nabers as it relates to who's going to be more involved in the offense. Don't get me wrong. Harrison's going to be involved in Arizona's offense, right, Wiggs? I think we can agree on that. I think, though, that Nabers is going to have a massive role this year. So I think it's going to be really closer, really a lot closer than people think. So with that said, I think both of these guys are going to be really close. I probably have to give the edge to Harrison, a little bit, just because he's got Kyle Murray, right? Kyler Murray. So, I think maybe he'll have a little bit of the edge, but it's really hard for me to say because Nabers has been showing out in camp big time. So, I just think that that Harrison Jr. is definitely the real deal. Same with Nabers, but I think that Carolina, even with what the other people that they have, they're still going to find a way to get him the ball, especially in the end zone. What's Harrison compared to Nabers? Harrison's
Body,
he's 6'4", 225, around 225. I think Harrison is definitely going to have the edge on touchdowns this year over Nabers, especially in the red zone. I think that they're going to find a way in Arizona to take advantage of that height, and stuff. So that's why I give Harrison the edge. I think they're going to be closer than you think yard wise. I think you're going to see Nabers definitely get a lot of yardage, just like Harrison. So I think yardage wise, they're going to be really close. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if both of these guys hit over 1,000 yards. It wouldn't surprise me if both of them don't hit 1,000 yards. It's always hard to predict rookie wide receivers. You don't know. But I do think they both fell in a really great situation. So I would probably say they both have an equal chance of pushing that 1,000 yards, right around 1,000 yards. I'm not willing to say that they're going to tear up, much more than 1,000 this year. But from a fantasy perspective, I got to give the touchdown edge to Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that he's gonna, because of his size, and the speed of the game and stuff like that, especially in the, and then the fact that he's got the size in the red zone, I think he's gonna have more touchdowns. So I see Harrison maybe with around 10 touchdowns, and I see Nabers with around maybe 8, possibly 6 to 8 maybe. I could be wrong. It could be flipped and stuff. It's really hard to predict, on this one. But that's the reason why, from a fantasy perspective, I think Harrison's going to have a better years point wise fantasy and stuff. But I think this is going to, just like we talked in one of our other videos with Daniels and Williams, I think this is going to be a great matchup to watch all year in regards to how it shakes out. And I don't think they play each other this year, but
that sucks. I was hoping they did.
So, but I think it's going to be a great matchup. The other thing I want to say, the one other thing I want to say here is that I think that even though Arizona's got to play San Francisco twice, and then they've got the Rams and the Seahawks, right?
Yeah.
I think from a defensive perspective, if you put San Francisco aside, I think that Harrison's actually kind of got the edge from a defensive perspective when it comes to the corners and the aggressiveness of the defenses and who they're going to be playing. So that's the other reason I kind of give them the edge, because Nabers is going to have to go up against the Eagles twice and the Cowboys twice. He's going to have to go up against the Commanders twice. And listen, I know the Commanders are going through a lot of changes on their defense, but they got Dan Quinn. And Dan Quinn, he made the Cowboys defense what they were the last few years he was there. I think that there's nothing that's going to suggest that he can't do the same thing with what Washington has. So I think from a conference perspective, I give the edge to Harrison on that as well, because even though they got to play San Francisco twice, I think that I don't think the Rams defense is going to be the same. They lost Aaron Donald. He retired, and I don't think their defense is going to be the same. I don't think the Seahawks defense is going to be the same. So from a conference perspective, I think Harrison's got the advantage there as well, which gives me the other reason why I think he's going to have a little bit better season for sure than Nabers. But I think it will be closer than everybody thinks.
Yeah, I think personally it's going to be close, like you said, and I actually think that Oddly enough, I think Malik Nabers is going to have more yards, and I think he's going to have more receptions. I think he's just going to be lacking in touchdowns because I just don't think Daniel Jones is going to be able to get it done in the red zone, and I think that's just going to impact his production. But I think he does make it up with probably, I want to say, like, I'm honestly going to go as far as saying he's going to have 10 more receptions than Harrison this year, just because they really don't have, like, a solid second person on that offense compared to, like, Harrison, who he's got, Trey McBride there, and who knows, for all we know, McBride could take away from his red zone production. People might just focus on Harrison, and boom, there's a wide open tight end somewhere. Um, but Neighbors, you're kind of just the guy on the offense because everyone else is just kind of
I can agree with you.
mediocre.
I can agree with the reception standpoint, Wiggs. I agree with you there that Neighbors could have more receptions and stuff. And I think where Harrison's going to make that up is that I definitely think he's going to have, um, you know, at least, I think he's going to have at least 5 or 6 more touchdowns.
Yeah, I definitely think he'll have more touchdowns.
And
sure.
I think that's going to make, and that's where it's going to give him the edge. I will say in the red zone, even with McBride and stuff, you see what these guys do in the NFL now. They got a big receiver and stuff.
Oh yeah,
they're just throwing the ball up and letting them go up and get it. So I think they're gonna do a lot of that with Harrison with the Cardinals. So and I don't think McBride really tore it up with touchdowns last year. To be quite honest, he only had 3. So, but I do think you're right. I think Neighbors is probably definitely going to have more targets and more receptions. Um, I think I think Harrison will still have quite a few targets, less receptions, but he's going to make that up with his touchdowns, and that's what's going to give him the edge from a fantasy point perspective.
Yeah, and I think Neighbors will definitely have more yards because you're going to have to throw the ball to him. And I honestly, with him being 6 foot and seeing his speed too and his footwork, I think we could see a lot of big plays from Neighbors, and I think a lot of his touchdowns. And when I say a lot, I'm thinking maybe 5 or 6 from him this year. I think a good 4 or 5 of those are just going to be 40+ yard touchdowns because he just broke a defender's ankles and got by him. And I could see Danny Dimes missing him on quite a few too, where it's like, dang, he could have had a few more touchdowns.
Well, and I also think that Wendell Robinson is kind of underrated, and I think that he still is a really solid receiver, and these teams are going to double Neighbors, so that's going to I think Robinson and even maybe Slayton, but I think more so Robinson has a really good shot of taking away some production from Neighbors this year, just for the fact that Neighbors, I think, is going to see quite a few double teams, you know, and stuff. Not saying that Harrison's not going to see it, but listen, Harrison's got the benefit of having one of the top tight ends in the league that's going to be working the middle of the field. That's really going to open it up from a lot of these teams trying to get away with double or triple team in Harrison. And Dortch is not. He's no schlub. I mean, he had some decent games, last year too. So it'll be. This is another exciting matchup. I can't wait to see how it shakes out over or throughout the year. Um, I definitely think they're both gonna have a great season and stuff. And here's my other hot take too on this. As much as I want to say that these two are going to be the top 2 rookie receivers this year, I'm telling you, this rookie receiver class is crazy. There could be some, Odunze, Brian Thomas, any of those guys could give these guys a run for their money. Leggett from Carolina, Worthy from KC, McConkey from San Diego.
Coleman.
Keenan Coleman. I completely forgot about him. He was, there's just a lot of guys out there. I think there's going to be. I think one of those guys that I just talked about is going to give these two a run for their money this year. I really do. I think there's going to be just like last year with Puka. I think there's going to be a surprise receiver somewhere out there in this rookie class. It's just too great of a wide receiver rookie class not to have some surprises. So, anything you want to add?
I think we're good.
Okay, well, we just want to remind everybody again. Hey, check us out, Fantasy Fools PPR on YouTube. We're also out on Snap, X, TikTok, Instagram. Wiggs is dropping content out there. I hope you guys are finding this beneficial in regards to the different things that we're doing, and it'll be fun to watch these two play this year. So with that, I think we're good.